tell you who you are. Let me tell you the blessings that you have. Let me tell you how to start your engine. Let me tell you how the power in which we should live. And he goes to this picture and he tells us, what it looks like to live that way. If we stayed with the car analogy, here's the get your engine started, and now here's how to drive, or here's the map of where you're going to go to. Walk worthy, and the rest of this book really different types of. Plead with you, walk worthy. I just can't say this enough. But Justin, notice it's with respect. It's with a humility. It's with a lowliness of mind. In the end, it is your decision. And there's no control. There's no power over. None of those things are exhibited here. And I'm going to tell you, we'll jump ahead. It's because they can't be exhibited there if Paul was going to be walking worthy. Because for Paul to walk worthy, he had to walk in lowliness, in humility. And power over is never humility. Power over is arrogance, it's control, it's me. And so we see it, we see the very first thing in this list exhibited right here in this picture of pleading and beseeching. I therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you that you are worthy of the vocation wherewith you are called with all lowliness. Now, we did jump ahead a little bit and say, when you get to this picture, a lot of us, Justin, have replaced the worthy walk with externals. We have all the externals on the outside. We look good, we look pretty. You can tell I haven't replaced with the externals. Don't look good, don't look pretty. Miss Pat made me nervous. Oh, that shirt looks good on you. I like that color. No, I think it might be too effeminate. Might have to go change. Back to blue and white. But sometimes we are about that paranoid. Miss Pat, I appreciate it. Thank you. But we replace it with the outside. And that's a challenge because the word of God, notice, is more attitude. All of those things that are listed there are more about inside. They're internals. And we just got done talking about starting the engine is about internal strength, not externals. And so, if we're going to walk the worthy walk, it's not about just the internals. Just the externals. And so we spent some time dealing with that. The worthy walk should exhibit itself love, joy, peace, gentleness, meekness, temperance. That's what should be seen in the worthy walk. Now, all of this gets us to the place where, and I don't know how that took 30 minutes, but that pretty much took 30 minutes last week. That gets us to the place where we begin this picture of the lowly walk, and the worthy walk. And it begins with all lowliness. If you notice, these things don't build one on another, but Miss Lorraine, you can't have the next one without the first one. Okay, with all lowliness and meekness. You can't have meekness without humility. With long-suffering. You will not be long-suffering without humility. You'll find a reason to give up on somebody because they don't deserve your attention, your continuing effort. Forbearing one another in love. It is impossible to love someone and put them first, above yourself, care more about them than you, without humility. Endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit. There will be no unity of the Spirit without humility. The necessary one for the following four is the first one, and that is we must live in a spirit of humility. So we began to throw this out there, and man, if it's so important, why does it happen more often? Because it doesn't happen very often. The struggle with the worthy walk is the very first one. It's to walk in lowliness. It's to walk in humility. Why is it so hard? Well, it begins with if we just try to describe humility. What does it mean for Brother Hank to be humbled? Well, to be put in his place. It would be to be chopped down. It would be to be laughed at, to be mocked, to mess up the song, to wear two different colored shoes. When we start thinking about he was humbled, none of that sounds like a good thing. And so we take this negative picture, I said last week, that when we talk about the humble person, to me, if man is not thinking, is not walking, is not waking up in the morning and saying, the Holy Spirit lives inside me. I need to redeem this day. This is the day that God has made me. If I just shut that off for a day, which sad to say I can do, and you ask me, describe humility, I would bring up Marty McFly. There is a humble loser. And Brother Bill, if that's our picture of humility, really our picture of humility, why is it so tough? Because we don't want to be humble. We can't wait till Marty McFly gets a little oomph. We don't like that picture. Now, you take that demeaning picture of humility and you add to it the fact that our society just exalts pride at every level. And Doug, this becomes a very tough thing to deal with. I was reading and going through, because humility is just one of those. How do you describe humility? As soon as you think you've got the good picture, the good definition, you probably just missed out on humility. It's just a tough thing to do. So I was reading a whole bunch of things that people smarter than me said. And I found this statement that was written by a guy who was a young teen during World War II. And it's a young teen during World War II, and then somewhere in the early 70s, he went to go visit somebody who was watching a football game. Brother Billy said he watched 2 minutes of the football game. So in the 2 minutes he watched of the football game, he saw one play, which sounds about right to me. He watched 2 minutes, it was one play, running back got the ball, he ran for 2 yards. Then he got up, after rushing for 2 yards, did some stupid little celebration. The defender who tackled him was on the other side doing some stupid little celebration. Well, I can tell you, these 2 yards were probably trying to get a first down. I think I got it. Yeah, I think I stopped him. And he didn't go on to say what happened because he closed it this way. He said, in those 2 minutes, I saw more self-exaltation than I did in all of the victory parades I saw and what attended after World War II. So, Brother Moyer, I started thinking to myself, I said, that sounds really good. I'm going to repeat that. But before I do, I want to know if this is just one of those, I walked 2 miles in the snow stories. It used to be so rough. So I just started looking to find anything I could, and I really couldn't find anything that would validate that picture to me. Have we really gone that much further on the pride scale? Have we really just tipped it all that much? Because, Bill, I want to say, I remember the days when, but the truth is, my memory is not so good these days. So I just started looking, and then I came across this quote by Eisenhower. Eisenhower leader, Eisenhower respected, Eisenhower in the paper, Eisenhower voted, Eisenhower. So this would be a good picture of leadership and what was respected. But Bill, he was talking on a memorial of D-Day, and on it they had someone who had won the Medal of Honor there. Not enough people did for what happened on that day, but he was commenting on all the things that happened on D-Day, and this is what he would say. Humility must always be the portion of any man who earns a claim on the blood of his followers or on the sacrifices of his friends. And you can follow the quote. Brother Hank, he really just goes on to say, well, I believe these men have earned all the awards they got. Every man there earned those awards. And for anyone who was successful, what made him successful? The one who died. So how do you stand and recognize anyone? Now, if you go back to the football play, then you know that guy can get 2 yards unless that line blocked the linebacker. So I would say, yes, our times have changed. We exalt pride to such a great extent. So with the down view of humility and the exaltation of pride, does it any wonder we struggle to walk in the worthy walk? I'll give you another picture, which probably isn't going to make very many people happy, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. I'm going to say this politely. But Bill, it's easier if I just talk to one person and not just talk to you. Everybody else, they can't be mad at their seats dropping anyway. I'm just talking to you. I'm a big fan of some of former President Trump's past policies. No, I'm a huge fan. I would exalt some of his decisions as highly as I could. But former President Trump is an arrogant man. And the fact that he is so exalted inside the churches is causing us a problem with the next generation.
Right.
Because if we continue to exalt pride and lessen the value, you know what the scripture we just read this morning says? It is impossible to walk the worthy walk unless you're humble. To continually overlook arrogance will have dire consequences in the next generation. To the point, we like pride. Brother, I can say that. I could actually have that argument with people. Trust me, I could really have that argument with people. I don't know if I can stay humble in having that argument. But it's going to come up this way. I want humility in my pastor, the president, the leader of our country. He gets a timeout and doesn't have to follow biblical commands. And that's the guy we want to be the leader. I mean, Matt, really think about some of the things we say to justify our exaltation and love of pride. Eric, I'm not going to use any of those verses until you get to Mark. When we talk about pride, let me tell you, I can tell you that we know pride is going to be judged. Brother Hank, you can go to Isaiah chapter 2, to Isaiah chapter 3, you can go to Jeremiah chapter 31, you can go to James chapter 4, you know what it's going to tell you? It's going to say there's no exception, pride will be brought down. But the opposite is true too. Humility receives grace and gets exalted. Now, so what exactly does humility look like? Well, Doug, if I exactly thought I knew how to describe humility, I'd have a problem, because I'd be missing out on humility. You know, 1 Corinthians chapter 8 talks about learning, knowledge puffs up. And the next verse basically says, the minute you think you're smart, you're proving the fact that you're not. Because you get to this place where I now know, so I'm not dependent. And then comes arrogance.
Right.
And there's no good application of knowledge without humility. So Hampton, you start to understand how important it is to be humble. This is how important. You cannot walk the worthy walk. You cannot walk in accordance to the vocation wherewith God has called you without walking and living daily in humility. So, what does humility look like? I'm going to try to get 3 illustrations, which is why all those verses you just spent time loading up, Eric, I apologize. Mark chapter 10. Oh, you did get those. Mark chapter 10. Mark chapter 10, we're going to see an encounter of, I'm going to turn there. Mark chapter 10, we're going to see an encounter Christ had with 2 of the apostles, 2 of his disciples. And very popular, we know it. But it is a great illustration of what can happen in our lives. And James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came unto him, saying, Master, we would that thou shouldest do for us whatsoever we desire. Here you go. Matt, I'm going to bring this up to you, like Jeremy 101. Lord, we know you can do anything you want to. We want you to be Santa Claus for us and make life good. Give us what we want. Now, he doesn't play that game. But what he's about to do is reveal what their heart is. So he says, tell me what you want. Notice he didn't say how I do it. Something happens. Things sound really good in here. Have you ever prepared like a speech for Stephanie? It sounds really good. Then when you go to give it, and afterwards, what was I thinking? Something happens when we just hear it. So Jesus says to him, you're about to hear it. What do you want? Well, let me tell you what we want. We're so dumb. Well, let me change this. We're so dumb. He said unto them, what would ye that I should do to you? They said unto him, grant us that we may sit one on the right hand and the other on the left hand in thy glory. Now, I'm going to add to that, Doug, because I believe this is in their heart. You heard, I believe, so, I'm not going to argue about this. But I believe they had to justify this, okay? This had to sound like a good request to them. They even filtered it up, because that's what Matt does when he talks to Stephanie. He puts all the flowers around it, right? So let me put the flowers around it. We love you so much, we want to set the closest. I want to be inseparable. In fact, Justin, listen, we're so humble, it doesn't matter if I'm on the right or if I'm on the left. We both just want to be there. Come on, Bill, you're laughing at me. You're just making that up. No, that's how we think. Come on, admit it. We make the dumbest things sound good to us. So, his response, Jesus said unto them, you don't know what you're asking for. Slow down, think through this. It's like Steph says, calm down, Romeo. And they said unto him, we can go through whatever. We got this, like it's nothing. Verse 40. But to sit on my right hand and on my left hand is not mine to give, but it shall be given to them whom it is prepared. Now he goes through this picture. Let me tell you, you know what you're asking for. You're asking for pain and martyrdom and struggle and misery. They never take it back. They never say, whoa. And the other 10, they were paying attention. They missed it too. Other 10, you wonder what they were thinking? And when the 10 heard it, they began to be much displeased. They got instantly grouchy. Who do they think they are? Verse 42. Here's the picture. Here's what we have to understand. Here's what he's calling us to. You want a picture of humility? I'm talking to you apostles, but Jesus called unto him and saith unto them, ye know that they which are accounted to rule over the Gentiles exercise lordship over them, and the great ones exercise authority upon them. This is what he said. You know how other people rule? Well, you got colonels and you got sergeants. And sergeants say, yes, sir. And colonels, they make the decisions. You got wealthy and you got poor. You got those who command and those who obey. And that's how the world works. And they may try to soften the edges from time to time, but that's how those in authority in the world look down on those who aren't in authority. Now let me tell you, it's not supposed to be that way. But so shall it not be among you. But whosoever will be great among you shall be your minister. And whosoever of you will be the chiefest shall be the servant of all. For even the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister, and to give his life a ransom for many. Okay? You want to be a leader. Let me tell you what that means to be a leader. It's not like you've heard all the time growing up there in Kentucky. Now it's a little bit different. You know what the leader is? The leader is the one who serves the most. The leader is the one who's the most humble. And there's no exception for president. That is what we are supposed to have as leaders. That's how you're supposed to be. Now some people take this, this is terribly wrong, by the way. They'll take this verse and they'll say, this is the destruction of authority. Now, you know who ordained authority? God did. God ordained the church, God ordained the home, God ordained government, God ordained work. You know who ordained authority? God is not destroying authority. What he's doing is telling authority how they should authoritate. Right. This is what it takes to be the authority. Angie and I got married in Sebring. Did you know that? We got married in Sebring. We were living in Indianapolis. We got married in Sebring in the first Christian church in Sebring, which just means they had that little flame, emblem in front. We got married there like 33, 34 years ago. I can figure out the math, but it's close enough. And the pastor was there. Pastor changed like 2 years after we got married. So the pastor who's there now has been there over 30 years. Every time we go to Sebring, if it's over the weekend, this is the church I go to. Most of Angie's relatives go there, except for the ones who are wacko. We don't go to the wacko one. And Lorraine, we go there. It's been over 30 years. Oh, they changed this. They built this. It's fun to see. But it's the same pastor who's been there. Oh, I may have said this. We recently had to go for a funeral. But this is who this guy is. He is one of the most humble people. He is a servant. And, we got married there a long time ago. I've been there lots of times. He's not the greatest speaker. He's not charismatic. I don't want to talk to him about sports. I just watch him. We went there for a funeral, and there was 100 people probably there. And he's feeding them. He's cleaning up. He is the host. He is the waiter. He is busy the entire time. And I've seen him like that again and again and again. He is a man who is humble. Now let me tell you the result of it. Justin, this is true. Every time I go there, I watch him. I want to encourage him. I want to help him. I see him and that humility, and what it prompts me to do. It prompts me to join in. He's not my pastor. It's not my church. But man, I just can't sit back and watch him outwork everyone. Out compassion everyone. I want to help him. That's the authority that you have as a father. Now, if you show those girls that what you want is their best in life, you will not have a problem. Well, actually, it's not just girls. How do you do that? You show those children that what you want is their best interest in life. I mean, they really believe that. You will not have a problem with them following, taking your advice. If they think you're lording over them, they can't wait to get away. That'll be every student in school. They think you're lording over them, can't wait for the day they're gone. They may even do it early. I don't care about wearing that hat, I'm gone. They actually think you care about their best interests. They're going to care about what you say. This isn't tearing down authority. This enables authority. This makes authority work. Now here's a picture of these disciples were traveling with Jesus. Now you read any book you want to, I'm telling you, that's the best thing you've ever heard of, Karen. I'll tell you this too. If your kids don't think it's you, here's the scariest thing on parents. They'll find somebody else to think that is. And then you'll have a struggle with that. These disciples are traveling with Jesus. They're learning truths. But Brother Wayne, they're missing the character. Now here's the scary part, so can you and I. We can learn truths. Knowledge puffs up. And we can miss the character. I heard an illustration. It goes back to, anybody remember Day of Discovery with M.R. DeHaan? Yeah. I think they used to film it at Cypress Gardens. I think when there was a Cypress Gardens. Yeah. M.R. DeHaan was having a debate, which is unusual for Day of Discovery, but they did have it periodically. And Chuck Swindoll was going to be there. There was a missionary that was there. There was a president of a college, which I don't want to name because he ends up being the issue. And there was one other well-known evangelist. I don't know why I named Chuck Swindoll. day of discovery is not exactly cell phone territory. So they just figure, well, we'll get there. We'll be able to tell who he is. And so they get to the airport and they're running around. And Justin, they can't figure out who he is. And now the plane's been there for 20 or 30 minutes and they can't find anybody. And finally they see somebody, with two big old heavy bags walking to them, looking grouchy and all upset. They look at each other. We've asked about everybody else. That must be him. So they say, you must be, of course, who are you? And they explain himself, and he goes on to this big diatribe about how he's been waiting, and how he's been disrespected, and they say, oh, sorry, we just thought we'd know who you were by what you looked, and we were, well, what was I supposed to look like? Oh, this is why I said Chuck Swindoll said. I wanted to just scream as loud as I could. A big jerk! Justin, I think that's what, if we're not careful, Christians become.
Right.
As we become more knowledgeable,
Yep.
that's what we act like.
That's right.
It's a big jerk. Because my value comes in what I do. Externals, not in internals, not in surrendering to the Spirit, not in the car running. Just a bunch of big jerks. In fact, we can get together at a big jerk meeting and we can talk about how jerky we're going to be and everybody else is bad, and we can exalt each other in our jerkiness. I've been in lots of jerky meetings. I've even been part of some. I'm proud. We shouldn't be a jerk because we're Christians. Somewhere we're missing the whole, being in our own eye kind of thing. Pull off being a jerk. Let's do this. Go to Philippians chapter 2. Eric, look how good you are. Philippians chapter 2. We'll do this pretty quick. Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory. So we have Christ's picture here of humility warning us. You don't know what you're asking for. When you go down that road, when you put yourself on this plane, be careful how you view yourself. What does the kid say? Check yourself before you wreck yourself. Now Paul's going to give us a different picture. Slightly. Let nothing be done through strife or vainglory. All the things you're going to do in your life. Justin, you're making this decision. Let's stop and ask the question, why are you making this decision? Well, you see, Bill and I, we've had issues. I understand. Bill's a hard guy to get along with. Old guys are opinionated, he just doesn't want to hear sometimes. Look at those ears, they're crusted over. Well, we've had issues, and I just want to restore that, so I'm going to do whatever, A, B, C, and D. I don't care. Just roll it all out. Can't buy flowers. What do you think? But you're going to do whatever you're going to do. You got it all planned out. Boom, you got it. Take the money. Buy them some ammo. That'd be tough to do these days. So I'm going to do all these things. Well, here's kind of that picture. That nothing to be done. Are you doing all that for Bill? Or let nothing be done through strife or vainglory, but in lowliness of mind, like each esteem others better than themselves. For Bill, or are you doing that for Justin? Well, you know how you're going to know. If Bill doesn't respond the way you want him to, because he's crushed it all up, and you get grouchy, you know what it reveals? It was done for Justin's vainglory. Paul begins to roll out. And he's talking about humility. Go on, Aaron. Look not every man on his own things. In case you missed that last one, look not every man on his own things, but every man also on the things of others. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. Now, we know where it's about to go. Doug, it's about to roll down that he descended, he left heaven, he came down, and he took on the cross. And if you had a good speaker up here that could talk about the cross, and Justin, we could see the pain of the cross, and we would begin to understand a little bit. Let me tell you something. I'm not even sure the cross is the biggest thing listed in those 3 verses. See, we can't understand what it is to leave heaven and come to earth. We have always been man. I can't even come close to describing what it is to limit yourself to man. Knowing the whole time that there's going to come, my God, in all time. But all of this he did because he esteemed you and I greater than what he gave up. This is the mind that is supposed to be in us. Nothing be done for self. How do we do that? Here's the correct answer. We go back to chapter 3, and we walk in the Spirit. And then when we walk in the Spirit, Christ is at home. And when Christ is at home, love shines through, right? That's how we do this. But there are some things God's given us that kind of help. And one of them I truly believe is supposed to be marriage. I believe that. Marriage helps hold you accountable. Nothing will help you see your flaws like that woman right there.
Oh, yeah.
You're not supposed to say that. You really messed up. Let me help you out. That was a flaw. I've been listening. I don't really like to read anymore. I like to listen. I love books that you can listen to, and then I can just rewind it again. If I like it a lot, I'll write it down then, or I'll look it up. You can usually find it. Take a snapshot of the page. But I was listening to George W.'s biography, and there's a part there where he talks about his father. Preacher, it's awesome, because he truly respects his father. I wish my boys would say anything close to that. In fact, since one of them didn't, I wish they were smart enough to write anything that close to that. But he says,
They lived it.
He said, as long as they heard that, I'm happy. I did my father a part.
They lived it. They do a good job.
So he's writing in there, and he says, people think, my dad was constantly giving me advice when I was president. But my dad refused to give me advice when I was president. He said, this is your chair. You sit in it, and you have to make those decisions. But he would send me some wisdom, some little nuggets that I was supposed to be smart enough to apply. One of them happens to be about marriage. It talks about a couple who have been married. I may not get this exactly right. I only listened to it one time. But a couple have been married for over 50 years, just long enough to start getting under each other's skin. Just long enough for me. And so they've been married over 50 years, and he went to the store, and he came back from the store, and she started putting all the stuff away in the bag. It's just like peaches and peas and something else, I forget. And she started putting it away, and she did not see a receipt. So she went to him and said, how much did this cost? And he said, I might have forgotten to pay for it. So she took him in the car and drove him to the police station and said, this man stole peaches. He ended up in front of a judge, and the judge says, I need to make a point with you, sir, so how many peaches do you think were in that can? And he said, I reckon about 6. Well, I'm going to sentence you to 6 days in the county jail then. After that, you can go home, and your record will be wiped clean. But 6 days, you'll learn not to steal in my county. And right after the judge got done, which is polite, she waited until the judge got done. She stood up in the back and said, he stole a can of peas too! I'm saying, marriage helps keep you accountable. I'm going to tell the children. Would your children help keep me accountable? Thursday, preacher asked me to speak tonight, which is an honor. But it's been a busy week, and it means I got to get a lot of stuff done. So I saw Eric Thursday night, and I said, Eric, can you help me? If I get this stuff together, will you do the screens for me? Because I have other things to do. And he knows the truth is I just want. I know he's not going to be in here, because he's going to be over there. And it's my opportunity to force conversation about it. So he knows. And, I'm not sneaky anymore. He's 30. He's been through this long lots of times. So do that. You can just get up there and say, you guys didn't matter enough for me to do screens. Or you can, better than that, you can just say, shoot from the hip, I didn't have time to prepare. And he goes on, or she goes on like 5 different things. I'm thinking, I wasn't thinking any of those things. But he wanted to make sure and hold me accountable for being the person he thinks I should be, for putting in the work he thinks it's required. What did I thought about that? At 9:30 after I got done saying, I just should have slapped him. And I planned that night to get right here and say, I don't slap him, I need to thank him. God has given us some things that help hold us accountable, help curb our tendency to conceit, help make us focus to regard others better than ourselves. And then I want this one last passage, and we don't have much time to talk about it, but I do want to read it because it's a good picture of authority and how we should live, how we should view things. 1 Peter chapter 5. And we're just going to read this for the most part. The elders which are among you. Matt, this is good. I'm happy already. Because you know what? This is talking to the preacher or to Doug or what, we can argue what elder mean, but this is talking not to me. Preacher, I'm about to tell you how you should be. I'm so excited. The elders which are among you I exhort, who am also an elder and a witness of the sufferings of Christ, and also a partaker of the glory that shall be revealed. Feed the flock of God which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind, neither being lords over God's heritage, but being ensamples to the flock. So now you see why Paul had to start that chapter with, I beseech you, I plead with you, I beg with you, not lording over, not command, not control. Because when the chief shepherd shall appear, ye shall receive a crown of glory that fadeth not away. Oh no, I should have stopped. Likewise, ye younger, submit yourselves unto the elders. Yea, all of you be subject one to another, and be clothed with humility. For God resisteth the proud, and giveth grace to the humble. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that he may exalt you in due time. And here may be the only way it's possible. Casting all your care upon him, for he careth for you. Which still takes us right back to chapter 3. And he's your engine room.